Good evening. Today we'll be dealing with a walkthrough of a case which I handled. I will be taking you across the several stages of a case and the facts of the case, how a advocate should work on such false claims or accusations. Here in the further slides, I have tried to not show the names of the parties. I have just taken photos and I have tried to remove the names of the parties. So initially, when we look in a dowry domestic violence case or a dowry prohibition case, the first action taken by the wife side is filing of a police complaint. So now let's look how the nature of complaint, the facts of the complaint the wife has filed. So in this case, so the main ingredients in this complaint is at the time of marriage, my father gave 16 lakh rupees worth of gold, 8 lakhs cash, 250 grams of silver, 1 lakh 50,000 to my sister-in-laws, and several other items as demanded. The words used as per demand of my father-in-law here in this slide. So we need to look into. So here the word used is demand. So there was a demand, and these people have provided because for the demand is what the wife has stated. In the second page of the complaint, so here the further she has again alleged that the all the five people, that is husband, husband's father, father-in-law, mother-in-law, and two sister-in-laws, the two sisters of the husband side, have all been accused uh, to torture her and demanding her to pay 10 lakhs for purchase of a house, and they have been continuously physically harassing her is the nature of this complaint. So the complaint is only because initially in the police station all facts may not be given, but at the later stage when it becomes the police file a charge sheet, when the complainant files affidavit, more other facts will come into light. So there are many allegations that she also gave birth to a girl child because the in-laws wanted a boy child. All these allegations were made. A typical domestic violence case where many false accusations are uh, made in the complaint. Now let's look into the charge sheet filed by the police. So in this charge sheet, so we have to look what are the steps police have taken. They have filed before the court under they have accused the all the five accused people under section 498A and of domestic violence, for domestic violence, and section 3 and 4 of dowry prohibition act. So yesterday Mr. NR Nayak sir discussed about the same for section 498A and 3 and 4 of dowry prohibition act. So in this charge sheet, uh, before this charge sheet uh, was filed, the accused number 2 to accused number 5 have already obtained bail. They surrendered before the court and they have obtained bail. Okay, now the police have collected 7 witnesses. So from the wife side, the list witness, what they call initially, the police submit list, make a list witness, including the wife's father, mother, elder brother of the complainant, cousin brother of the complainant, maternal uncle of the complainant, mediator and circumwitness, and even the police also become a list witness because in the number 8 and 9, the list witness, the police has issued a FIR, inspecting officer, and filed charge sheet. The people, because we'll also have to examine them. So in this charge sheet, the nature of the charge sheet, how the police have filed before the court. Facts of the case they have filed. So here the facts of the case. At the time of marriage, 16 lakhs gold, 8 lakhs cash, 250 grams silver, 1 lakh 50,000 was demanded by parents of the mother. So it was provided is what they have stated. So physical harassment was there, and there was a demand for 10 lakhs, but 5 lakhs was given. And because a girl child was born, that's why a harassment happened. And also there was a case filed by the police officer under criminal number under domestic violence. And also they were produced before the court, and they have taken bail, released on bail, A2 to A5. So A1 was already arrested. He was already released on bail during filing of this charge sheet. So here the woman was subjected to cruelty by all the in-laws, and several she and her family members have tried to convince the accused, all accused persons, to take her back into the court, to take her back into the matrimonial life. But the accused people have not come forward to take her back, and she has also filed a case for restitution of conjugal rights with her husband, which was still pending. Restitution of conjugal rights means asking the deserter to come back and live in the matrimonial life, or to take her back, or to take him back into the matrimonial life. So somebody who has deserted his wife or husband, he or she can file restitution of conjugal rights, asking court to give an order to come back and live in the matrimonial life. If that order is not followed by the other side party, then the other side party will have a right to file a divorce, uh, for violating the court order. So not following the restitution of conjugal rights order from the court is a ground for divorce. So we will be dealing, when we deal with your subjects, with restitution. So now let's look into the nature of affidavit filed by the complainant. So what all ingredients she has stated in the affidavit. So here we have to see, I will also discuss how I cross-examined the wife, who had written mostly all falsified versions in her affidavit. So for example, in second para, respondent number 1 to 5 are living together in the above cost title address. In a Bangalore address, she has stated all 5 people are residing in one single apartment. But when I cross-examined her, she accepted that both parents of the boy were living in a village, and the sisters were living at one sister was living in Chennai, one sister was living in a different place in Bangalore. So we have to, when the affidavit is filed, we have to look into very detailed aspects, how to cross-examine the parties. So I will go again. She has made the same allegations, like 16 lakhs was given, 8 lakhs was given. During cross examination, I asked her, because she produced many receipts of gold purchase from different shops. So many gold items were purchased in the mother's name or in the father's name, somewhat like 3 years before marriage, 5 years before marriage. My main question was, for the prosecution witness was like, the you have stated you have purchased all this for marriage to give it, but you have purchased already 3 years before, you are lying before court. She said no, was the answer. So likewise, we have to question all these things and nullify and bring to the court, to the judge's understanding, that these are made up version of the client. So just to, without any proofs, that they're just making up all these things. So here one more allegation was made that the petitioner purchased, sorry, the respondent number one purchased the apartment in both the names. So in both the names, she claimed that the father-in-law and all the other people demanded a dowry of rupees 10 lakhs for purchase of house, but 5 lakhs was given in cash. So this is again a falsified statement because there was no cash transaction. In fact, we produced before the court all the loan statements obtained on the house, uh, because the house was purchased on a loan based on the income of the boy. So during my cross examination also, I questioned her. There was no answer from her side, like for any receipts for withdrawing 5 lakhs. So she did not produce IT returns for having that 5 lakhs amount from where she withdraw and all these things. All these things needs to be questioned. So here again in the seventh para, another accusation was made that this is like a very normal accusation in many domestic violence cases. It is like a standard template what many advocates use it in their practice, that if a girl child is born and the boy may be having some hatred because she's a girl child, he wanted a boy child, instead a girl child was born. So such accusations even court will also not look into. So here also there is one WhatsApp conversation she has filed before the court. This WhatsApp conversation is in Telugu, which only says that you don't come, you send the baby to my house, I will take care of the baby, is what the boy is claiming in this WhatsApp, that she has used it. So one more accusation that whenever the baby used to cry, husband and the in-laws never used to take care of the child because it was a girl child. Even there was one more accusation that husband did not take good care of her when eyes was not in good condition. Even because husband advised, because doctor advised not to do laser surgery, but she was still insisting on laser surgery for eyes. But again, we have to prove before the court that husband was taking good care of the child, and this is a false accusation. So because of this continuous harassment, because when the marriage happened immediately after giving birth to the child, the wife never returned back to the husband's house. She almost stayed in their parents' house for almost 1 year. When the husband tried to contact her several times, she never came back to the husband's house. And moreover, she went and filed a falsified complaint uh, before the court. So, and there was also one more incident where her father threw a stool which fell on the uh, boy's mother. Boy's mother had a hand injury. We also submitted the medical records of the mother whose hand was whose hand was injured by a fracture, hairline fracture. That was also proved before court that this was a intentional act done by the girl's father during one panchayat meeting which was held in the boys' place. So another this thing accusations were that they necked her out of the house for not providing sufficient hurry for and using filthy language. All these accusations were baseless allegations made. and a false statement that the ornaments are under the custody of the respondent. All are false accusations. So her boy side also filed one injunction suit asking not to allow her inside the house because she was already uh, threatened the boys side also. He filed one suit in Bangalore and sought an injunction. He also filed one divorce case here. So she brought a stay from High Court, from Andhra Pradesh High Court, or the High Court ordered that the case should be transferred to Hyderabad, because in India, if the girl's residence at a different place than the boy's residence in a different city, so the girl has a right to approach High Court to transfer that case to her city, so that she can attend, or if there is a provision that boy is willing to pay for her travel expenses and she is agreeing to travel to the city where the boy is residing for a divorce case, in such case the court may allow such arrangement also. So here boy had filed a divorce case from Bangalore. She brought a high court order from Andhra Pradesh to transfer the case from Bangalore to Hyderabad.
One question, sir.
Yes.
So whatever I understand, the boy is putting a divorce affidavit in Bangalore court, and the girl, I mean the wife, the wife is supposed to be, after marriage, the wife is supposed to be staying in the boy's place, the husband's place.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So that becomes her bona fide residence. Now,
Correct.
during the childbirth, she went to her parental house, which is not supposed to be her house. But in which ground the Hyderabad High Court is declaring that since the girl is residing in this area, in Hyderabad region, the case should be transferred to Hyderabad. The boy can always claim that she actually belongs to my house. If she stays in some other place, that doesn't mean the case has to be transferred to different location. Just because that she is staying at a different place.
See, when there is a apprehension of domestic, that because the girl has because when she has filed a domestic violence case, she has a reason to be outside the place of husband's house because she has a threat to her life.
Yeah, so but as you said, in that domestic violence case, you got a proof that the husband's mother got injured in that domestic violence, not the wife.
See, wife has also filed some medical records in this case that husband scratched her, tried to bite her, false medical evidences which did not have any baseless proof. And she has also filed. We have also filed. So it depends on the judge.
Today, but in that case, when the evidence is provided by the wife is not very substantial, then the judge may decide to go in favor of the husband.
Yes, obviously, because now this is proved only during only in the final argument we do this case is has not yet reached for final arguments. So it is still only cross examination has been finished. So I will stop only at the cross examination, how we cross examine. So I will also now share the prayer what is sought in this affidavit.
Okay, sir. Please go ahead.
You'll get an understanding. Yeah.
Sure.
So even she has also filed restitution of conjugal rights in Hyderabad, but still husband has not joined her. So if she wants to have a divorce, she can take that even after the court ordering the husband to join the wife, husband has not joined, she can take this defense, and if she wants a divorce, but she, in this case, she does not want a divorce. So she has mentioned the husband has deriving income from her many of the properties of his father. So she has given a list of properties in this case. Even I disproved this fact also, that he's not getting. So I will also now share the cross-examination style, how I try to cross-examine here.
Sir, demand of property is a common thing in the matter of divorce. So always there is a common practice that the wife side will demand property share. And now the question is, this property share, let us say the husband side has got some parental property, and husband himself, during his working period, from his own earning, he has purchased some property which is entirely in his name. Let us say, if it is in joint name, then she becomes a joint partner to the property, she can claim. But let us say the husband has got purchased some property registered in his name, and that property is purchased from his own earning during his working period. Now the question comes, can the wife demand a share from that property as well?
During his lifetime, wife has no right over husband's property or husband's ancestral property. The right comes only after his death.
Okay, so during the divorce, how the wife side claimed to have a property share?
See, she is not claiming a share in the property. She is trying to prove that husband is having an income source. She can claim maintenance.
Okay. So which clause actually says that during the lifetime, wife cannot claim the share from the property?
We will deal with that in Hindu Succession Act during the family law. So as per that law, Hindu Succession Act, wife has no rights over husband's property during his lifetime. So the right for wife over husband's property starts only from his date of death.
Okay. Yeah, got it, sir.
Okay.
So here I have one question. So in terms of conjugal rights,
yes,
we lost
the court or APR Telangana.
Sir, we lost you.
Can you?
We lost. Your voice is breaking.
Sir, you just type and send the message. I will read it and I'll answer.
Sure, sir.
Okay. So here again, she has claimed damages for rupees 20 lakhs for mental agony as compensation for harassing and threatening her to withdraw the cases filed by her. So she has produced some documents which I have cross-examined all these documents in detail. So here the prayer what she has sought in this affidavit. So if we look into this affidavit, she is asking for a alternate accommodation. She was already staying in her parents' house happily, but still she wanted an alternate accommodation and she wanted a rent of rupees 20,000. Direct respondent number 1 to 5 returned dowry amount of rupees 8 lakhs. Expenditure of 6 lakhs, gold article, silver worth 17 lakh 50,000. So 50,000 rupees per month she was claiming maintenance to pay compensation of rupees 20 lakh. So it is very difficult to decide on all these things. unless the other side party who is accused accepts all these allegations, and if the prosecution witness is able to prove that all these allegations with proof and documentation that she has given, then this case will have a validity. Just accusation will not have a valid angle for a case of. Yes. So I think I need to change the slide one, just a minute.
So before you change, one question here.
Yeah.
So it's a common, very common that at the time of divorce, the wife always makes such a big claim of a huge money as compensation and followed by a huge amount as monthly maintenance. It's a very common thing.
Yes.
But now that this case has not reached the final stage, but how do you look into this? When such a huge
in
claim
this
is coming, how do you deal with it?
in this case, what happened? The court had ordered almost 30,000 as maintenance. I got it reduced to, because she claimed that husband is having rupees 1,50,000 income, but she did not produce any proof of such income. In this case, I try to prove before the court and reduce the maintenance to rupees 15,000. How I reduced it? I produced the proof that husband was having only rupees 68,000 rupees as income, and secondly, the wife had the knowledge that husband was paying my EMI loan towards the house, which was purchased in joint name of husband and wife. So he was almost paying 40,000 as EMI for the house he had purchased. So the remaining amount which was left in his pocket was 28,000 out of his salary. Out of this 28,000, again he had to pay 3,000 as maintenance towards apartment and 2,000 towards electricity bill. The court considered that his only intake in hand was around 25,000. So the court awarded 15,000 for both wife and daughter. So the court had interim maintenance. So court had awarded interim maintenance. At the initial stage, the court had ordered 30,000. I went to appeal against this order before district magistrate. The earlier order was cancelled, and the amount of maintenance was reduced from 30,000 to 15,000.
Yeah, I got it, sir. What about the initial claim of 20 lakhs, which she was claiming?
See, that 20 lakhs, this still the case has not yet reached argument stage.
Oh, okay.
So I am only taking you a walkthrough of this case only till to a certain time, because the final argument I will tell you in the end of my slides how our final argument should go based on this cross examination. Okay, now I will just a minute. I will look into the question of Satyanarayan sir. My question is in conjugal right. Is court order responded to stay with her in AP? If yes, what are the grounds for it? Where husband working in Bangalore? Sir, I did not understand your question. So what I understood is she has filed for restitution of conjugal rights. Okay, restitution of conjugal rights means like the person who has deserted her. So in this scene, it is clear that the wife is claiming that she wants to come back, but husband is not ready to take her back, is what the wife has stated in all her domestic violence complaint. At the same time, she has also stated that there is a threat for her and her daughter's life. So she has also filed a restitution at the same time. So she has filed restitution asking the court to intervene in their matrimonial life and ask the husband to take her back. So here husband is not ready to take her back because he has his own defense that I have suffered so much in her hands and in her father hands. I'm not ready to take her back is the husband's defense. So now the wife gets a right to file for a divorce. She will definitely get a divorce if she wants a divorce based on the ground that husband has violated the court order.
Oh, okay, sir. I got. I
Sir,
was
one
answering.
question, sir.
Yes.
Sir, you're saying that in the related to the interim maintenance, if the girl or a wife is intelligent enough and she has educated and is still maybe she is not working, but she is well educated and she can earn. In that case also, she will get the interim maintenance.
Sir, what does our court say is husband has to pay maintenance to his wife. Even if he has to beg and earn the money, he still has to go and beg and take care of his wife. So
I got it.
1 minute. And only thing is what happens if wife is earning, husband is able to prove that wife is earning. If only in the situation wife is earning more than the husband, in such a case it may not be required for the husband to pay maintenance towards the wife. If in the case where husband is earning lesser than wife is earning lesser than husband, but the court may look into facts and circumstances of the case, may reduce the amount of maintenance which is awarded to a normal woman who is not working. If she is not working and she wants a maintenance, as per the standard of living of that city, what is in Bangalore, for example, the standard of living, house rent for 1 BHK for a woman is 5,000. For her survival, another 5,000. If child is there, monthly expenses of the child and another things, another 5,000. Let there be only if let's assume this slab is for the husband who is earning. It depends on various facts and circumstances. Assuming that if husband is having a income of rupees 40,000, the court may award this 15,000 rupees as a benchmark for wife and daughter combined. So if the husband's income is more, suppose let's say 1 lakh, the court may award 25,000. In the petition, generally the wife side will write, I have to meet the lifestyle of my husband. I have to meet the society's requirements, and I have to keep the respect of my husband. So I require 50,000 rupees, 60,000 rupees, 1 lakh rupees as maintenance. Such type of claims court will not entertain. Only because maintenance is not for your luxurious living. It is only for survival sustenance.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Sir, what about the child is there?
That's what, even child is there, the maintenance amount is little increased. In 40,000, suppose, for example, husband is earning 40,000. If only wife is there, the wife will get 10,000 rupees as maintenance. If child is there, another additional 5,000. So 15,000 maintenance will be given towards the wife. If wife is earning, then that 10,000 may be reduced to 5,000. So that
Sir,
way the different
Sir,
facts and circumstances come in place in deciding a maintenance.
Sir, in case wife is working and child is there, so still she'll get the maintenance, no?
Yes, if her earning is lesser than husband. If her
Not
earning,
depend on the child.
see, for child, husband has to give maintenance any day.
No, that is, and he will get the share also, the property of the fathers.
No, he will not, the child will not get share of the self-earned property, but child has a right over father's ancestral property.
So child will not have the right on the father's self-earned property, sir.
No, during his lifetime, even child will also not have a right over father's self-acquired property.
No, sir. I am asking about if the divorce has been done.
Hmm.
The granted by the court, divorce has been granted the court.
Hmm.
Okay, the child is with the mother.
Ah.
Then child is having the legitimate share of the father's
See,
apart from the ancestral property.
there are
is self-
there are circumstances. Okay, let's assume in the divorce decree, a permanent, if the word used, permanent alimony is paid towards both wife and the child. In that circumstances, the child will not get any rights over husband's property, father's property. If suppose the word permanent alimony is not used and only divorce is granted, in such a scenario, at a later stage after death of father, the child can claim over father's property if husband has died. If father has died, during that time the child can claim. If permanent alimony is granted, let's assume a situation that husband has given a divorce. Husband and wife are divorced and the child is there, and in the divorce decree the word used is permanent alimony is given to both wife and the child, and later husband marries a second wife. In such a scenario, the divorced wife and the child will not have any right over husband's property.
Sir, what about the child, sir? I'm asking the child. See,
Sir.
what you said is correct.
Hmm.
No, if even the Almighty have been given for the permanently for the both the father, mother and child.
Hmm.
If the father had died, well, he'll get the share of that
Oh, no,
ancestral
no.
property.
No, it will
Ancestral
go.
property.
No, it will go to his brothers. After divorce, permanent alimony is given. It will go to his brothers or his second wife, who is if he has married again, or his parents.
Sir, can you explain what is meaning of permanent alimony here?
You see, permanent alimony is one-time settlement. Okay, like wife, if she is clear, suppose
Then there is, if it is,
see, what does the wife and
if it
child
is,
have?
if it is a one-time settlement, then there is no question of maintenance, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So many cases get resolved in the divorce when only permanent alimony is accepted by the other party. If one of the parties accepting for permanent alimony, one-time settlement. So I want divorce, permanent divorce. I will pay you 20 lakhs. You give me divorce. Girl side is also happy to take 20 lakhs and give divorce. That is so. In that agreement, both the parties sign. That agreement, the judge asks whether do you accept this agreement for giving divorce. Yes, I accept. Both the parties say that terms and conditions of the agreement we accept, and the wife will, after the divorce is granted and signed by the judge, the wife can never claim maintenance or husband's property or any other ancestral property after divorce is granted.
Got it, sir.
Sir, I have a question, sir.
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me,
Yes.
sir?
Yes.
Good evening, sir.
Hmm.
Sir, I want to know whether, like, when you told that permanent alimony is given to both wife and the child, if the child is minor, and is there any possibility for when the child grows up, he or she comes to majority, he can file a suit stating that he or she is not satisfied with the permanent alimony given for him or her?
No, not possible, madam.
So don't you think it's very unfair to decide when the child is minor, who mother takes a decision and he or she is, has to abide by their arbitrary like decisions? Why the child is not given the opportunity to?
See, when you go for when the divorce happens and permanent alimony is settled, it is like understood that it is a one-time settlement. That the parties will not come in future to disturb the husband. So that once you accept to that agreement and sign the agreement in the court, that means you have defeated your rights of claiming husband's property or any other claims over husband, even for both wife and the child, because even the child will also be made a party in the case in mutual consent.
Sir, but how the child will understand the laws? How will that child be able to take that decision? He or she is not that mature to know what is happening around him or her.
Ancestral property ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು. Okay, yeah, only like during his lifetime ಇದಿರಲ್ಲ.
Sir, can I say something?
1 minute.
After 18 majority,
Huh.
because the ancestral property child can claim.
Yes. Here, Navya, if the child after attaining majority, he can claim husband's ancestral property.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
In the case of divorce, when permanent alimony is given, but still the child comes from the same blood lineage,
Yes,
husband's
yes.
blood. So that's why the child will have rights over husband's ancestral property.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
But the child will lose rights for any maintenance or other things. Child will not get any maintenance claims or anything, but only over husband's ancestral property, the child. Because until if suppose wife is claiming maintenance till the age of 18, the child can get maintenance. If the child crosses 18, above 18, the child will not have any right for maintenance.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
So one more add-on to the question which ma'am was just asking. In case of permanent alimony, the child being the minor, the permanent alimony amount must include the child's educational expense, health, everything, all requirements, and that should have been considered while deciding the permanent alimony amount.
See, that's why because that's why the wife side is asked. Like sometimes what happens is as a practice, the husband has some affection towards the child. He can the mediator also insists that you do some amount as fixed deposit for the use of child's education or for the use of child's future marriage expenses. Some suggestions are given by the mediator in the mediation process. If wife is not wanting such deposit, she wants all the money to herself and she wants to maintain the child with that money, even that is also allowed. But if we cannot say that to like tomorrow wife exhausts all the money she has received in the permanent alimony and she cannot come, or nor the child can come to seek maintenance again from the father. So that right is extinguished there in a way. And Kulsum, yes, it is maintenance is as per the status of what the husband is earning, it is decided. So the person who is claiming, the wife who is claiming maintenance has to prove before the court that husband is earning so much. Even the husband also has a duty to prove before the court that whatever allegation made by the wife that I am earning so much is incorrect and I am earning only so much. He has to produce proof. This is how.
Sir, I have a question here, sir.
Yes.
Now, how is the earnings decided? Let us say the husband is earning 1 lakh, and out of 1 lakh, he will be paying for home loan EMI, he will be paying personal loan, he will have other obligations, LIC or other policies he might have done. He might have done health insurance for the family. So all these will be deducted from that, and then the earning is decided, or the salary, the take-home salary is considered as the earning.
See, yeah, as you said is correct. Like there will be deductions, there will be monthly EMIs. So for what purpose he has done EMI should be taken into consideration. Suppose he has taken some EMI for some luxury items like car or other things, may not be considered. But if he has purchased some property in both the names, of husband and wife or in the name of children, then it can be considered. But it should, whatever he has done or purchase of and is paying EMI should be in welfare of both wife and the child. In such a case, that amount he is paying can be deducted from this salary, and net salary he is receiving in hand. From that, how much maintenance should be provided, that court can decide.
Sir, is the term standard of living defined anywhere? Is it purely monetary basis, or how is it, sir?
See, different cities have different standard of living. Suppose cities like Mumbai, just for 1 BHK rent would be crossing 15,000. If husband is not providing house or accommodation, for if wife has claimed in her petition that she requires accommodation, then in such a scenario, 1 minute. In such a scenario, the court may award maintenance along with rental also.
One question,
So-
sir.
Yeah, so it depends actually upon the place where the husband is staying. I mean, I'm just understanding it. That is the way.
See, it depends upon two things: place where he stays and also the income of the party. If income is very high, assuming his income is above 1 lakh, 2 lakh, the court has powers to award till 50,000 also. And also, it is the burden of proof on the husband side also to prove that the wife is also earning sufficiently. She does not require 50,000 to survive in the city. She is sufficient with 5,000 rupees of maintenance also. She can survive because she has sufficient income. If he can prove that, he can reduce the amount of maintenance to be payable.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
One short question, sir. In case if the wife gets it, I mean, if the divorce is granted and wife marries, then will payment and everything still be valid, or will there be any?
Everything is done and dusted. If she is remarried, then she cannot claim. Once divorced only, she cannot claim anything. But she will still have rights for maintenance if she has not got permanent alimony till she gets remarried.
Okay, sir. Clear.
Sir, good evening, sir. I'm Subhash here. Hello.
Yes, tell me, sir.
Sir, husband and wife both are in Bangalore. So case is in Supreme Court. So now who will get the transfer of case from? You told only girl will get the wife will get the benefit of the case to transfer the particular area.
See, Supreme Court is a totally different issue. When all her claims has been when parties are not happy with the judgments, the Supreme Court is only a question of law. They can go and file appeal there.
They take a step from the Supreme Court. So
Yes.
But case in Supreme Court, but both are in Bangalore. Both are the doctors. That type of thing, the wife will get the benefits, sir.
Sir, Supreme Court, where is it? Only in Delhi. It's only appellate court. It's not a family court.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, the question has the answer itself. If it is if the case is going on in a local court, then the wife gets the privilege to
Yes.
appeal for the case transfer. But if it goes to Supreme Court, then there is no such option available.
Yeah, let me explain the situation. Let's assuming the situation that wife is at Davangere, husband is at Bangalore. Husband has filed a divorce case from Bangalore. So she can approach High Court and she will bring an order to either transfer the case from Bangalore to Davangere, or she also has an option asking the husband to pay her for hotel expenses to stay, travel expenses to stay, to attend the case hearings in Bangalore. She can exercise these two options. If she does not want to travel to Bangalore, feeling fear of her life, she can still ask the case to be transferred to Davangere. But Supreme Court is a appellate court. When the court has given order and husband is not satisfied, he go for appeal in Supreme Court. Okay.
Not get the transfer to the high courts.
Sir, Supreme Court is an appellate court. Even there also she may have to file a petition asking the husband to provide for travel expenses, hotel expenses before Supreme Court. Supreme Court has to powers to ask husband to provide has powers to ask husband to provide travel expenses, hotel expenses to travel till Delhi and fight the case. So only if husband provides, the case will proceed further in Supreme Court. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
So during cross-examination of the said case, what we discussed, because the same affidavit what I discussed so far, I cross-examined the same wife of the complainant in this case, prosecution witness 1, that is the wife. So I questioned her. I tried to trick question her several times. Here, one thing in this, I was able to prove before the court that she had not accepted that she was working. She accepted that she was working before and she was having a good salary of rupees 15,000, and she has not applied for any jobs presently. There was a judgment. If wife is capable of earning, but she still does not want to go out and earn, she should be given lesser amount of maintenance. This was in one of the judgment it was stated. This cross-examination statement holds valid if I want to reduce her maintenance.
Sir, I have a related question if you allow me to ask.
Yes.
There are, in most cases, husband gives divorce, husband applies for divorce and wife doesn't accept that. And because of this, they have been living separately for so many years. I'm just recalling my old colleague, a similar case from Hyderabad and Bangalore, the same thing. How do you deal with such case when the husband is trying to appealing for a divorce and the wife side is not accepting it? How long this case will continue?
We have a case in our office running from 30 years.
Oh.
So every time wife comes before the court, I am unemployed, my son is handicapped, please provide me maintenance, and the judge there themselves seeing their emotion, she straight away asked the husband to pay 10,000 rupees for maintenance, and he's also like every time once in a year he is going visiting 1 month jail and he's coming out. He's not willing to pay any maintenance, so he's happy to stay 1 month in jail and come back. So that's the punishment. So generally 11 months of criminal miscellaneous petition is filed for maintenance. So that lady files and this guy says, I have no money, I am pauper. So okay, go enjoy 1 month prison time and come back. So 1 month is done. He is again here. Again after 11 months, another 11 months, she files another criminal miscellaneous petition. Again he is going to jail for 1 month, again coming back. Such type of incidences are happening.
Sir, can you hear me?
Yes, tell me.
Why court use such a so I'm coming, like, if I'm just reading one statement here, it is not to suggest that respondent number 225 are not the permanent residents of Bangalore. Why
Okay.
this complicated way they written, like it is not true to suggest that respondent number one. So is that something is an important way we should?
Okay. Okay. Let me explain. In the cross examination, the wife had stated that all respondents number 1 to 5 are living in Bangalore. I questioned her that it is false to state that all respondents are living in Bangalore. And she also accepted that respondent number 4 is a resident of Tamil Nadu. She also accepted the respondent number 5 has a separate house with her husband in Bangalore. She also accepted that respondent number 2 and 3 have a residence at different place. In the affidavit version, she has stated that all respondents are residents of Bangalore, which is a false statement, because I have to prove before the court that she has made a concoction of facts, falsified facts. She is a made-up case, and I have to convince the judge that this is a false version, whatever she has claimed in her affidavit. I have to question her. During questioning, I question her this way, and I try to get answers from her. And I use this same cross-examination statements during my final argument stage. Okay, so this is how I protect my client, using the cross-examination state, trying to convince the judge that she has made a falsified statement before the court in her affidavit, and she has sworn before the this court where she is not supposed to say lies before the court. So that way I protect my client. So here, and I request, I don't know how to remove this. Somebody has using, I don't, 1 minute.
Yeah, hi sir, this is Uday here.
Ah.
So as per this discussion, I have a question, sir. For suppose like you are trying to protect, your client, stating that the boy's sister and the mother, they are not with the boy. And for suppose if she said that like they visited for some days and they were here, and again if they gone back to the native or something like that, in that case, like how we can justify it?
See, first of all, there's no need to justify unless, see, when a domestic violence happens in one of the another domestic violence, I will in that there were severe bruising marks on the wife's back. The skin had turned total blue in color with almost some 30 to 40 centimeter. He had husband was a constable. He abused his wife so much. All her entire back was turned. Her skin had turned blue. He beat her with lathi, and all the photographs were available. In that case, in the domestic violence, the final verdict is damages and some imprisonment. So in the court awarded damages of rupees 5 lakhs just by merely alleging without any proof that I was beaten and all these things cannot stand the test of law before court. Okay, just where I came here, all these things, even though the medical evidences they create, it is very much difficult. We have to prove before even such one person wants to injure himself, he should be mentally retarded if he wants to injure himself and blame some other person. So what is that extent? Can a person go such thing? So we have to prove before the court also with proper.
No, sir. Sir, actually, my question here is that I'm not talking about a wife or a husband, sir. I'm talking about when the client, when the opponent person, if she is claiming that the parents of the boy or parents of the sister of the boy or some other person from the boy's side, so they have done this something to the girl, and we proved them stating that they are not staying with the boy and they are staying in some other place. But in that case, if she say that they have traveled and they were there with the boy for some days. So in that time they have insulted me or they have hit me or any other things. If she says, if they raise this point, how can we, take it forward? That's what my question
See,
is.
that is an allegation. Only thing what, from our cross-examination point of view, we only ask her that it is false to state that all people were at the same place. We also ask her, do you have any proof that all 4 people were living at the same place at that point of time? If she says no, then her allegation will have no value before the court.
Okay, sir, clear. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Abhilash, I'm still.
Mr. Jagan, I will
Yeah.
finish this cross-examination. In the end, I'll take questions.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay. So in this cross-examination, the house was purchased on loan where there was no demand for rupees 10 lakhs made and rupees 5 lakhs was never paid by the complainant father. So here I was able to prove before the court the entire flat was purchased and the initial down payment was also made by the husband's bank statement was available. I produced before the court that there was not a single rupee issued by, and there was no proof for demand of rupees 10 lakhs. And I even questioned her that do you have any proof for the making demand of rupees 10 lakh? There was no. I do not have any proof to show that rupees 5 lakh was paid by my father to respondent number 1. So it is clear that whatever allegations she has made, there is no proof to show. So that her allegation will not stand valid. So the respondent, the boy used to send rupees 5,000 every month to her father, and he has produced the bank statements also. It is available. So even she had claimed that husband did not provide for medical expenses during the birth of the child. We try to disprove because all medical bills were covered under the husband's employment insurance. We try to prove that also. So even she has made statement that husband and everyone used to manhandle her. I asked her whether do you have any medical record to show that respondent number used to manhandle me. She said no. I do not have any medical record to show that respondent number 1 used to manhandle me. When I asked the question that do you have any medical record to show respondent number 1, so here you just need to understand that my question is not typed in this cross examination. Here the answer which is given is only typed. I do not have my question is do you have any medical record to show respondent number 1 used to manhandle me? Her answer is no. So the judge types, I do not have any medical record to show that respondent number 1 used to manhandle me. So when she is in the witness box, I keep asking question. If she says no or yes, the judge types my question along with the answer in this format. So she has made an allegation that my husband did not take me for medical test for my eye checkup. And I tried to convince the court that doctor had suggested not to take laser treatment, and she agreed. Yes, the doctor had suggested. So it proves that husband was taking good care of her. So I have. She has claimed that husband is having rupees 1,50,000 as income. So I asked her do you have any proof to prove that your husband is having rupees 1,50,000 as income? She has said no. So husband's income was rupees 68,887 per month. I asked her that do you have knowledge that husband's income is only rupees 68,887? She said she has no. And I asked her whether is it true that your husband has purchased the property in both the names, and she said yes. And also she said that it is true that rupees 40,000 EMI is being paid for the salary of husband's respondent number 1 every month. So I also asked her a question: is it true that he's only getting rupees 26,000 in his hand after deducting EMI and other expenses? She said no. For that answer, it has been recorded. It is not true to suggest that respondent number 1 gets in hand salary of rupees 26,000. And she has filed some property list details in her witness statement. The property list details of the father-in-law, where father-in-law has several rental income properties at several places. So she has claimed that rupees 40,000 rental income is coming for this family, and this boy is taking that 40,000 rupees rental income. I questioned her whether do you have any proof to prove that how much rental income or rental agreement in agreements do you have any proof to prove before the court that they are getting so much rental income from that place? She said no, I don't have any proof for rental income for my father-in-law or my husband getting through such source. He's getting some money. So her allegation of he getting a rental income is disproved here. And also here one statement, very important statement, what she made is, I asked, did you make any effort to find a job? She said, she has straightforwardly said that it is true, I did not make any effort to find a job. I will use all her statements against her during the final argument stage. So this is how, when affidavit or a version of statement is filed before the court, we have to cross-examine the version, and we have to make a list of facts prepared and ready for the argument stage. So so we have to prepare all these things. So all her averments, all her in each and every para, whatever she has made, I have questioned her in detail and have tried to come to a conclusion that all her allegations are without proof, without any baseless, and she has not produced any documents to prove the fact of her allegation. So we come to end of this session. Here, and also I examined also the girl's father. Here the girl has given the version in the affidavit. The same version is copied. When I cross-examined the father of the girl, he said he also got caught at several instances where he said that all the dowry amount I paid it to the father of the father of the boy. When the girl is saying I paid all the amount was paid to the boy. So two different versions. One is saying I paid to the boy, one is saying I paid to the father. So all these facts come as a conclusive evidence for us during the final argument stage, where we can easily prove before the court that these are all concocted, done a masala of facts and presented a falsified masala of facts presented before court just to harass the in-laws. So this is how we need to walk through a case, different stages of a case, and we have to protect our client in this way. So I hope I was able to make you understand like all the stages of a case, but this in this present case is still in the stage of evidence stage, where we need to present our evidence before the court, and then after that stage our evidence will be done. We will be going for final arguments. So I'm open for questions.
A related question, sir. I was just about to ask you.
Yeah.
Now, let us take example of this case or the other case you referred, which is going on for 30 years. Now, in a case where the husband and wife both have understood that they cannot live jointly anymore, they have been living separately, and husband is continuously appealing for divorce, and wife side is continuously rejecting that appeal. Now, in such case,
thing can be done.
Okay, so stay can be done, but the point is, what if the husband wants to remarry? Because it's his freedom to leave, right?
No, if husband wants to remarry, that marriage will not be a valid marriage without divorce. The second marriage is not recognized in the Hindu Marriage Act.
But the court doesn't consider that husband is continuously applying for divorce and wife is continuously rejecting it and not coming to any terms for any settlement or anything. So the court doesn't consider all these things.
See, it depends upon evidence. The wife is of the apprehension that I want to live with dignity in society. I don't want to be called a divorcee. And if I go to my husband's house, my husband ill treats me. That's why I don't want to join him. The court can still consider such request because she has a threat to her life and her respect and dignity from the husband's side. That's why
In such case, let us say the husband is agreeing to pay necessary maintenance for her sustenance to an acceptable standard of living wherever she wants to live, but just leave him so that he can be free of that marriage and he can go and remarry. Now, in that case, also the wife is not agreeing for maintenance. How does court deal with this?
See, it is a different situation altogether. See, if maintenance is wife's right, if she wants it, she can claim it. If husband voluntarily wants to give it, she can take it. It's not but husband's duty is to pay maintenance towards wife. We have to understand in that way. So there should be a demand for maintenance from the wife's side. And if a wife can be enjoying the maintenance, and she can before the court she can tell before the court that I have a threat to my life if I join my husband, so that's why I want to be separate and live with dignity, and I want to stand up to the respects of my husband, but I still want to be away from my husband. The court may allow such process also. Judicial separation also may be allowed.
Could you please throw some light on forced separation?
There is nothing. There is no forced separation. Like if one of the parties not willing to take another person into their household, he can either move out and or lock the doors for not allowing the person to enter inside the house. If it's
I was just recalling sometime back I studied in one of the newspaper. If the husband wife were separated, living separately for more than 7 years, then this will take a different turn, right?
No. That's under desertion. That's under desertion. Okay, if husband has deserted the wife for more than 7 years and is not traceable.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Let us say they are knowingly living separately. In such case, I'm still referring to the colleague's case. They are knowingly, they have decided to live separately. They both are alive. Nobody is absconding. One is living in Bangalore, one is in Hyderabad. Now when they can, I think there is a clause. Maybe I have to recall that, or I have to study again.
See, if they want to go for a divorce, they can always file mutual consent and obtain divorce if both are agreeing. But in our Hindu life, one is not willing to give divorce. The court may not give divorce at all. So one more thing, and if in cases of cruelty, it depends upon evidence produced before the court, and if that evidence is acceptable evidence before the court for manhandling, for using abusing words, and there are several list of witnesses for seeing such manhandling or abusive words, and if courts takes such evidence into consideration, then divorce may happen. Okay, sir.
Yes,
because one-sided, I will file divorce against my against wife for on the ground of cruelty, but wife is, I'm not able, I'm just made allegations, pure allegations without any proof, just like this case what I discussed. So I cannot, even my wife will also prove before the court that I don't have any proof of my allegations. In such a scenario, my case is a weak case and court may not allow divorce for me.
Sir, I have a question. So when you say that either a girl or a boy, I mean, like, they are not living, in a one place, and they are not, in the relationship, and people got, I mean, it's been a 7 years, they are not with each other. So in that case, as you said, like, the girl can go for the court stating that he's not available or something like that. What about in a boy's situation? If the boy wanted to, if boy got to know that she's not available for the last 7 years, in this case, what we have to do?
You can file a desertion case and you can obtain divorce. See, the thing is that she is not available in his in a normal person life. If you want to trace a person, you are unable to trace him for past 7 years. He's missing. So you can file that you are deserted. The court will send a notice to her old existing place of address, and if she is not found there, he will file for a newspaper publication asking so and so person to come before the court for on so and so such date for so and so proceeding. Otherwise, ex parte decree of divorce will be issued against her. So you can get a newspaper publication, and you can get a ex parte decree for divorce in your favor.
Okay, so thank you.
Sir, my question, sir.
Yes.
During the filing of divorce, if wife says that she doesn't need any alimony or maintenance, maybe after a couple of months, can this be revoked, sir?
If she, during a mutual consent divorce, if she accepts in the agreement that I don't want any permanent alimony or maintenance, all claims has been settled. If these words are entered into that agreement, in future, she cannot have any claim for maintenance or even husband's ancestral property after his death.
Thank you, sir.
So generally in mediation, the mediator themselves, they ask both the couples, like whether do you want to exchange any items, or do you want to give her any permanent alimony. All these things are suggested there if both couples are not working their marriage life and they both want a divorce. Both are asked, are you able to, are willing to work this if both are not agreeing, and both are suggesting that I don't want one of the parties suggesting that I don't want any permanent alimony, I'm happy with myself, that statement will be recorded that I don't want any maintenance or permanent alimony. So whatever agreement she signs, she has to stand by it for the rest of her life.
So this alimony and maintenance is only for women, sir, not for the men?
It can be for the men. Suppose if wife desperately wants a divorce from husband and husband is not ready, so wife wants to give a permanent alimony to the husband and take divorce, she can also do it.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. It depends upon the desperateness of the party.
Sir, this is Sushila. I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, after divorce, husband is paying maintenance, but after some time he lost his working capacity. He couldn't able to earn. Then what is the solution for this?
Generally, in a practical situation, what will happen? So in the after divorce also, husband is paying maintenance as per the court order. He's paying maintenance, agreed. So he loses capacity to earn. So what happens is during such situation, the wife will file for arrest of the husband for not paying maintenance. So husband has to produce evidence that he has lost his job, he is not having salary, but still husband has he can ask for reduction in the amount of maintenance as he is not earning. One possibility. Second possibility, the court may look into his situation and reduce the amount of maintenance. And even if he still does not come forward to pay even the reduced amount of maintenance, the wife can file criminal case in criminal miscellaneous case. She can get arrest warrant, attach of his property assets for recovery of maintenance.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, I have a question. In this case, like suppose the person doesn't have a capability to earn and he's disabled or some other problems and he's not able to earn. And if he's okay to prove that he himself stating that I'm zero and I'm depend on my parent or whoever from
He
their
can in that situation he has to file application that I do not have any capability, I'm handicapped. My wife can earn better than me. She is fully physically able to earn. The court may consider such application also.
If not, he's not physically handicapped, but in terms of earning, he's zero.
The
And-
court says you go beg and you feed your wife.
Okay.
It's
Thank you, sir.
it's a liability of the man to take care of his wife.
Well, yeah, got it. So thank you.
Okay, any more doubts? So did you I would like a few comments about today's session. If anybody wants to speak about today's presentation, and did you like it, and how was the feeling that walk through towards the case, and how you have to build a case? So can anybody comment? I would like to hear about.
Sir, it was wonderful, sir. You explained it so clearly.
Okay.
It was looking like just like a court argument only,
Yes.
It was perfect. It was very good. Thank you so much, sir, for that.
So today's session was something that we learn how to cross-examine each and every point, written in the affidavit. So we learned that, so which was a good thing, and we also learned many other aspects of the divorce, case. I think once we study the family law and we came through the Succession Act, we may get more ideas on that. But we learned very nicely. You covered, very nicely how cross-examination happens, in such situation.
Yeah, hi. This is Uday here. I'm so happy to be a part of this team. So I just wanted to highlight the few points here. The way you have explained it, that is absolutely, it's the great and hands-on experience that whatever you were giving it to us practically. I mean, it's amazing too. Thank you.
We just want you to know that whatever you read in books is quite different if you come to practice.
Yes.
When you come to practice, it's a total different ball game.
Yes.
So we need to be, because our main aim in our law college especially is to bridge that gap, because many
Right, sir.
people drop out of law profession when they initially enter the law profession after the law college. Within 1 or 2 years they quit law profession and go, because they don't have the on-hand experience of handling a case, or so here we at least try to tell you that this is the level of required skill you need to be prepared for. So at least you have an idea, at least 50%, 60% you are prepared for the practical field when you enter the area. So likewise, in coming days, we plan to introduce you to more different types of cases we have handled from start to end, how we have handled the case at different stages, so that you have an idea whether you tomorrow you face a similar client in your life, after passing law school, you have a required knowledge and confidence to address that client. This is our main job, what we are trying to cover in these seminars. Okay, thank you everyone. It was a wonderful session today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for your
Thank
valuable
you
time, sir.
so much, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Bye, sir.